So which is easier to do? To admit your sin, your failures, and your weaknesses, or to excuse your sin, your failures, or your weaknesses? I know which one is easier for me. How about you? So it seems pretty common that when somebody has been caught in a sin, or they're caught up in some kind of weakness of their own or failure in life, for them to make an excuse for it, to shift the blame onto others, or to totally ignore it and pretend that it's not there. But Paul David Tripp, in his 23 Things That Love Is, tells us this, and that is, love is making this daily commitment to admit our sin and to admit our failures and our weaknesses. And then he says that we need to daily resist the temptation that we have to excuse our sin and to shift the blame onto others. Now, it's interesting that he uses daily as the example. I mean, why not? It's not like I'm doing a lot of bad things, so why not just kind of let it build up and then take care of it all? God, forgive me for all of my sin, and just cover it that way. Well, that's almost too easy to do, quite frankly. And it's not that asking for forgiveness and admitting our sin and confessing them is so hard, because look at what God says. He says his mercies are brand new every day. So why in the world would I want to carry the weight of unconfessed sin around with me, letting it build up day after day after day, only making it more difficult for me to admit my sin? In James, it talks about how we confess our sins one to another in order that we might be healed. And I think one of the important things that we understand is not that necessarily we're blind or sick with some kind of disease in that healing, but I think it's talking more about relationships with people. It's talking about restored relationships, confessing our sins one to another in order that our relationships be made right. So if we really want to practice what love is, and it begins in the home, it begins in the marriage, it begins with our family, it begins with our friends, it begins within the church and the workplace, to do it daily, to confess our sins daily, to know that God's mercies are brand new every single day. And let's stop making excuses for our sin. And let's stop this thing of blaming others. Oh my, yes, I did wrong, but if so-and-so hadn't done this, I wouldn't have done this. If this hadn't been going on, I wouldn't have done this. Let's just clean up our own side of the street and confess our sin daily. 1 John 1:9 tells us that if we confess our sin, that he's faithful, he's just to forgive us of our sin and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. That's the cleaning up of our side of the street. Is there some cleaning you need to do today? So I challenge you with this. Walk it out in love. The love of God and the love of one another. God bless you and have a great day.